It's Thursday, April 30th, and time for your Barbados Today morning news update. Prime Minister Mia Mottley unveiled a $2 billion economic plan over the next 2 years to prop up the economy in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Addressing the nation last night, the Prime Minister disclosed that a $400 million stimulus package for businesses to keep staff on the payroll had never before been seen in Barbados and was designed to fill the holes in spending in the economy. She said an economic plan would also focus on a public and private capital works program, among other things, and $210 million would be spent on families affected by the shutdown.
Just before COVID-19 struck, our reserves had reached $1.55 billion, the highest level at that time recorded on a like-for-like basis for a while. Today, as a result of the low-interest borrowing from our partners, the Inter-American Development Bank being the most recent one, our reserves today, as I speak to you, are just over $1.7 billion. It is more than enough reserve cover. And the governor of the central bank will speak to you tomorrow, and he will carry you through where we are with respect to the condition of our economy and how we can endure what we are going. Ironically, we are also in the middle of an IMF mission this week as I speak to you, and we are moving along in a manner that is satisfactory and to us as to them. Our economy was sticking to the course, provided us with the reserves, provided us with the room, provided us with the credit, and enough standing now, regionally and internationally, for us to launch this most comprehensive integrated program that the country has had ever seen, largely because we've never had this kind of crisis facing us. We focused the program on supporting those who have lost their jobs in this shutdown and to keep those as far as possible who have jobs into the jobs. The economic plan, as I said earlier, has 5 parts. The parts are different, and so it is not straightforward to add them up into one number. But the effect of them is to fill the hole in spending in this economy to the tune of near $2 billion over 2 years. This is the biggest package of spending initiatives ever rolled out over a 2-year period on a supplemental basis from what we would otherwise have as our core activities.
The Prime Minister also disclosed that the National Insurance Scheme had received over 29,000 new claims for unemployment benefits. She said to date, close to $12 million had been paid out to those who lost their jobs as a result of the pandemic.
In the last 5 weeks, however, our National Insurance Scheme has received, as of Monday this week, 29,076 new claims for unemployment benefits. It is a staggering number. More are still likely to come. My team has worked hard to remove the red tape that would otherwise have delayed payment to this group of Barbadians, and many have already received their first check last week, and others are continuing to do so this week. Indeed, as of Monday, the NIS has paid 10,989 persons the large sum of $11.19 million for unemployment benefits, and that would carry them for the first 4-week period. The NIS will continue to dispatch all of the benefit claims as far as possible, as quickly as possible.
The Prime Minister insisted that the country has sufficient assets to meet the demand.
You will ask yourself, does the NIS have more than sufficient assets to cover this? Yes, we do. We have the sufficient assets to meet these demands. But many of these assets are not liquid, or it's not in the right divisions. For example, our severance payments fund is a healthy $140 million, while our unemployment benefit was down to $19 million, which, as you can see from the first few payments, will cause it to be exhausted any minute now. The government, therefore, will support the National Insurance Scheme, whether through existing funds being held at the central bank from loans that we've already received under policy-based lending, or by purchasing bonds that the NIS holds to the tune of $250 million. The economic team will settle which method it prefers in the next few days. But in essence, if we go that way, we will prepay the NIS early bonds that it holds and finance potentially the issuance of a pandemic solidarity bond to allow the NIS to move forward without in any way affecting the deficit, but at the same time meeting the needs of those almost 30,000 Barbadians that are claiming unemployment benefits.
Over 100 Barbadians are set to leave the island soon for Canada for jobs in farming. That's according to Labour Minister Colin Jordan, who said that the nationals are to participate in the Seasonal Agriculture Workers Program despite delays due to the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. He tells Barbados Today the contingent of workers will head to Canada once the flight arrangements are finalized.
How and when those flights are arranged, not really up to us. That is up to the Canadian government working with the farmers' organization, which is the acronym is actually called FARMS, and they are working to organize those flights so that they can come into Barbados, take the Barbadian workers and go back out. So the situation is very fluid, but it is being worked on, and I believe that within days, no more than a week or two, the first set of Barbadian workers will be going out to Canada.
Minister Jordan said government has been assured that workers will be going into a safe environment.
Under normal circumstances, persons would have gone to Canada during the month of March. Some, not all, but some. But we would have had flight disruptions. There also was the situation where protocols had to be put in place by the Canadian government and by the Canadian farmers' organizations to ensure that workers were safe in the work environment. We have been working very closely with the Canadian government and through our consulate in Toronto, as well as our High Commission in Canada, in Ottawa, we've been working very closely with them to make sure that all the protocols that would keep Barbadian workers safe are in place. We are satisfied that those protocols are in place.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
To news from our regional neighbors now. The Health Minister of the Bahamas says efforts are being made to get Bahamians who are stuck overseas amid the COVID-19 pandemic back home. But Minister Dwayne San says logistical issues are still being ironed out to facilitate the process.
As we flesh it out, we are aware that people have already contacted our consulates and embassies, and plans are starting to be made. Now, there are some other logistics because, to give an example, people in the United States, the state of Florida is not allowing people from New York to come to Florida. So if you're in New York and you want to try to make it to Florida, you may not be able to get there. You might be able to make it to Atlanta. Now, if you're in Atlanta and you came from New York, will they allow you to come in? I don't know the answer to that question. So there are some significant logistics that still need to be ironed out, but our goal is to look out for the interest of Bahamians and the Bahamas.
And finally, 1.6 billion workers in the informal economy stand in immediate danger of having their livelihoods destroyed. So warns the Director General of the International Labour Organization, Guy Ryder, amid the continued global decline in working hours due to the COVID-19 outbreak.
The figures that we have launched today show that the job destruction effect of this pandemic are actually deepening. We estimate that in the second quarter of this year, the loss of full-time jobs is the equivalent of 305 million jobs worldwide. We'd previously estimated that figure much lower, 3 weeks ago, at 195 million. So I think the evidence is that the effect of the lockdowns, the necessary measures being taken to stop the health pandemic, is having a really dramatic effect on jobs in the world.
That's news. But for the very latest, visit us at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, or like us on Facebook, and sign up for our breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We're also on Izumi Media in bus terminals, as well as screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. And you can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM and Capital Media HD 99.3 FM.